Welcome to Home Gym History. My name is Rob from Vintage Weights PGH, and tonight I have Luke Raymond from Arm Assassin Strength Shop here. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Luke's bringing his very inspired grip and arm wrestling equipment out to Home Gym Con. Home Gym Con's coming out to Louisville, Kentucky this year. New location. I'm excited about it. The last weekend of June. And listeners, if you still need tickets to Home Gym Con, you can save a little money with code VINTAGE. But that's exactly what I want to talk about with Luke is his company. So listeners, let's say arm wrestling really isn't your thing. Let's say grip strength doesn't really interest you. What should interest you is this man on my show right here who started his own company right here in Pennsylvania, same state I live in, and it's the go-to spot for these things. So the home gym community really wants to hear your story here, Luke. So let's just start there. Like, where did Arm Assassin Strength Shop kick off? How did it start?
So I was practicing physical therapist. I'm still a licensed physical therapist. I was practicing for about 7 years, about 2 years. So after 5 years, I started arm wrestling in 2016. I had started grip sport with Jed in 2012, 11, 12. So I came into arm wrestling with a grip background, but there wasn't really any companies that made like arm wrestling handles in the United States. There was Mazarenko, which is, I believe, out of Poland. A few very small companies make one or two handles. Couple friends and I that I kind of trained with and arm wrestled with, they were talking about making an order. I was like, well, I could probably get a buddy that welds to make stuff. And so one of my friends made me an arm wrestling table, and then I'm like, it doesn't look like that hard, so I should just buy myself a small welder, a all the basic tools to fabricate, and that's kind of where it started. I just made a couple handles. Started with my top roll eliminator was the first handle I ever made. Went to like wrist wrenches, and then I would make just a couple to take to arm wrestling tournaments with me, just to sell, just to kind of cover like entry fees, gas, food, just kind of something to cover a little bit of my expenses, not necessarily to become a full-time career. And then eventually I added more things, and then friends of friends wanted stuff, and then people I didn't know wanted stuff. And then it just kind of grew for the first, 2.5 years or so, when I was still doing physical therapy and building equipment. But then in 2018, so Memorial Day, it was the last full-time PT I practiced. And then I switched to per diem PT for about a year, and then COVID hit, and then I switched completely full-time to fabricating and making equipment in January of 2020. So it's been
Well,
it's been crazy considering I
that
had
was actually
zero welding
oh,
background
exactly.
prior.
I'm
I
over
literally
here with my
bought a
little
welder, taught
notepad.
myself how to weld.
Yeah, I'm jotting down all these questions. Like, hold on a second here. So, yeah, if I heard you correctly, you didn't have any experience welding prior to this. So then, was it just trial and error? Did you have any friends that kind of gave you some tips or some advice? Were you watching YouTube videos? How'd you learn to weld?
Yeah, so I had friends. I mean, the gas industry is pretty big up here, so a lot of like pipeline-based welders, not necessarily fabrication, but pipe welders. So they kind of they understand how to weld and all that side of it. But yeah, it was a little bit of YouTube, a little bit of friends' help, and then just kind of practice, trial and error, figure things out. I did have background in like I did like residential carpentry for like my summer and winter breaks of all of undergrad and grad school, so I at least had understanding of like building things. I had done cabinet woodworking. I had done some fine intricate stuff like that. So I at least had
Yeah.
a background in building.
Well, I love this piece of this that kind of goes along with the organic growth of things of your company, that you're just trying to kind of pay some entry fees to these competitions, these arm wrestling competitions. So, this is fun, something I'll do. You saw a void, you saw a space in the market because there wasn't a lot of people producing these implements, these tools for arm wrestling. At what point did you start calling it Arm Assassin Strength Shop? At what point did it go beyond just this guy that's kind of tinkering around and maybe selling a couple tools at a tournament to like, I'm going to put up a website?
So that was 2017. We actually had an arm wrestling team. It was called PA Arm Assassins. And so I just kind
Okay.
of played off the name of that, just called Arm Assassin Strength Shop. I mean, the team was just like, it was more just a Facebook group where we could kind of communicate as like basically a big group message more than it was anything else. Um,
Mm.
so I had a name first, um, but then I had to figure out a logo. So it's like, well, do you play?
Yeah.
What do you the play on words as far as like the arm, or do the assassin? Um, Kind of thought through things for a couple weeks and ended up with an octopus
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
the logo. So a play on the
It's
arm
perfect.
name. So it was all just I don't like I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of doing
Yeah.
whatever I could to figure it out. Really.
Well, the majority of my guests on the show pretty much say the same thing. Like Mike from Microgains was a manager of a grocery store when he started making some weight plates in his shed. Like most of the very creative company owners that I've talked with, that's kind of the way it went. So it's interesting to hear that you kind of follow that same track of seeing a market, a space in the market for your product, making it, and then coming along. Now, your logo is one of my favorites. Every time I wear your shirt, your Arm Assassin Strength Shop shirt, I mean, my kids love it. They're like, it's the octopus. They know it right away. And just people always ask too, like, hey, what is that? I mean, it's a very cool logo. Um, but then you said COVID hits. It's 2020. That's when you make. It's always an interesting thing to kind of ask, like, all right, what was the decision making process to go full time with this? That I'm not going to be a physical therapist anymore, at least for the foreseeable future, and I'm going to make a go at this. Was it just a huge uptick in orders during COVID, or was it like COVID restrictions made it tough to practice physical therapy? Like what happened?
I mean, even in 2019, when I was still doing per diem, I think I only worked 240 hours the whole year of PT. So it's not like I was working a lot. And it got to the point where I had to say no more than I could say yes as far as like per diem rate. And then with the way
Okay.
COVID worked, they actually dropped the rate. Like they almost decreased it by 50% for like your hourly reimbursement for PT. And I'm like, well, I can make more going to my shop that's in my garage at my house, not
Yeah,
driving anywhere, dealing with any of the crap that's at a hospital right now.
it's true.
And
You're by
stay
yourself in
home.
your shop. You're following all the yeah,
Yeah, and I live in
all the stay home,
a
all that
very
stuff.
very rural area where the restrictions were almost non-existent. Like I didn't wear a mask to go into any stores. They weren't enforcing anything. Um, so I didn't have any restrictions as far as me, as long as I could get materials, as far as like to get inventory to build stuff. I could
Yeah,
continue to build and continue to ship. And I know a lot of these bigger companies could not do that. So COVID, and then arm wrestling got huge over COVID with just the online presence with Devin Lair and all the other huge social media kind of faces that are from arm wrestling. So
Larry
that got
Wheels, I remember, started
yeah,
putting out
like it was
videos,
crazy.
and it still continues. Like, yeah, it's just this morning I saw a Brian Shaw video. Like Brian Shaw might consider arm wrestling, which is
Yeah, He's got
quite
like a
frankly,
match coming up
I
against Brandon
was
Allen.
scared.
Yeah, yeah,
Man,
huge human
yeah,
being.
Brandon Allen, very accomplished power lifter. He went to arm wrestling. I don't know. I haven't spoken with him. I'd love to have Brandon Allen on the show. But I remember he had a major injury. I don't know how much it connected to that or just going a different direction. But yeah, he's gone to arm wrestling. There's a bunch of interesting kind of different strength athletes that have switched or pursued it. I had Eric Hussein, who on the show a while
Yeah,
back to talk through the history of arm wrestling. And I was curious with him, well, what's the interplay between grip strength, arm wrestling? So, how, you were into arm wrestling first, if I'm hearing it correctly. So then,
No, grip sport.
what was
Grip
you?
sport was
Were you
2012.
in grip sport first? Okay, so
Yeah,
you
for
were into
4 years,
Gripsport
and arm
first.
wrestling 2016.
Gotcha. So then let's work around that way then. So Gripsport, you started GSI is the sanctioning body for the Home Gym Con Grip Strength Championships that I directed last year as well as this year. So and Jed Johnson's been on the show to talk through, GSI and some of the grip history and some of the stuff he's done. But I want to hear from you. So, you know, did you do both for a while, or did you make a switch from grip sport over to arm wrestling? Like, how did that all work out?
I've done grip straight through the whole time,
Okay.
which uh, arm wrestling is just hard on the body. It really is. I randomly threw myself back in the mix of things this past weekend down at an arm wrestling tournament,
That's
and
awesome.
now I remember why, because my arm has been hurting for like 4 days straight. So, um,
Oh no.
but yeah, the wear and tear that arm wrestling takes on you, the tendon pain, it just limits your ability to really fully train grip to the level it
Mm.
I feel like I can. Eric Eric did both for a really long time, but I think he's come to the same conclusion as we start to get a little bit older. It's just hard. It's hard on the body.
Yeah.
It's a lot of aches and pains, and it makes it difficult to be able to do both at a high level. I would consider myself better at grip as far as like the level. Um,
Hmm.
I don't do like I consider myself a mid level pro as far as arm wrestling, mid to upper. Not an elite by any means, but I do consider myself for my body weight an elite level grip guy. So um, that's why I kind of have
You're the
pushed that
winner.
route to
You were the
play with the
champion.
grip.
Home Gym Con grip champion last year. You took first place overall. And so, I mean, I think last year there were a lot of brand new people to grip that participated at Home Gym Con. And regularly they kept asking me, like, who's that guy looking at you when you were lifting? And it was an easy thing because your booth was right next. I was like, oh, he owns that. Like he makes all this stuff. So it was cool to see you in action. And you you took it away, man. You got first place. Are you going to compete again this year at Home Gym Con, or you think you'll stick with the booth?
I mean, it's hard because last year there was, I mean, it was busy but not crazy to the point where like I could still step away, go lift for a few minutes, but like with the potential of it being significantly more, I don't know if I'm going to have that ability. So it's going to be more of like a play it by ear type of situation. I know there's a lot more people
Sure.
that are actually in grip sport that potentially are coming. Um, so
Yeah.
the competition should definitely be a little bit more of the seasoned vet versus just the primarily all very new people.
Well, I didn't set an entry free last year. I just kept it free. Like, hey, if you're coming to Home Gym Con, you're buying a $35 ticket to get in, then you can compete if you want to compete. And it worked out fairly well. And I'm pretty happy that I think I got a lot of people into grip. There's 31 competitors. So far this year, the entry fee is $50, but includes entrance to Home Gym Con. So really it's $15, which is a pretty nominal fee
Yeah,
when you wrap your mind around it. But I wanted to have at least a nominal fee just so that, nobody just wandered in. You had to at least, throw $15 at it, basically. Um, and, people are registering. I think we're up to 16 athletes right now, and it's only the end of March. To put that in perspective, the end of March last year, I don't know if I had 10. So, yeah, things are going well in terms of people coming out to compete again. You're a sponsor again, Arm Assassin, for the Home Gym Con Grip Strength Championship. And we have two of your implements in the competition. We've got the Saxon bar as a main lift. And then I got to reach back, pick it up. We got a single handed Napalm Nightmare with 2 3/8 inch handle as one of the lifts as well. So if anyone's curious, you can go to Arm Assassin, check out these implements, and see what it's all about. But as far as your company, and like you were saying, the wear and tear of arm wrestling, I mean, your arm's been sore for 4 days. Well, how are you welding stuff? How are you doing what you're doing So not just right now, but I mean over the years, is there a balance to, competing at an elite level in these things while also having a physically demanding job?
Well, the one good thing is I'm actually left-handed when it comes to like welding and fine dexterity movements. All my primary, like my stronger arm is actually my right arm in almost all movements. So the good thing is my right arm doesn't really feel that great, but my left arm is fresh as a daisy, and have no restrictions. So,
So that's the secret. So if there's anyone out there,
but
if
I
there's
mean,
like a
that's
small company or manual labor, there you go. Compete with your other hand.
yeah. So that's part of why I stepped away for 3 years is because I actually I have a partial tear in my left UCL. Um, and we
Mm.
weren't even competing. We were just practicing on the table at the Arnold. So I did the grip contest at the Arnold, ended up taking first place, and then went on the arm wrestling table like half an hour later, and we were just like slow pulling, and I felt and heard a loud snap in my inner elbow, and I'm like, I knew instantly what it was. So that was pretty much the last time I ever put my arm on a table for like a legitimate my left arm, that is. I've done some very light, slow stuff just to kind of like warm people up for tournaments, but nothing like with
Mm.
significant force. Because I need my
Gotcha.
left arm more than I need my right arm, realistically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So as far as the arm wrestling and the grip strength pursuits in your company, I mean, I really love grip strength training. I've really gotten into it the last couple years, and I enjoy it. I can see that that's the way I'm headed, the rest of my days in terms of strength pursuits. But it's still fair to say it is a small segment of an already small segment of the population that even lifts weights, let alone pursues grip strength or arm wrestling. So,
For
do you
sure.
find like, for example, being into vintage weights? I mean, most people in my life don't even lift weights, let alone appreciate old weights. So it's hard for me to describe to people sometimes. Like, what do you do? You talk about old weights online. Like, do you ever find anyone that's just kind of not understanding what in the world your company is?
I mean, for sure. I mean, when people ask, I say that I make gym equipment, but my focus is on grip sport and arm wrestling specific training tools. I tell them that I do make general stuff also, but a lot of people are like, "Oh, you do that full time?" I'm like, "Yeah." By full time, do you mean like 50 plus hours a week for the past 5 years? Then yes.
Yeah. And are you
But yeah,
still
there's a lot of
are
people
you a
that
one
don't.
man
That,
operation?
so I am the
I'm
only
sorry. Go
person
ahead.
welding. No, that's all right. So I have throughout the history, I've had like some part time help. Right now, my uncle helps me part time, but he only works like 10 hours a week. He
Hmm.
generally does a lot of the arm wrestling tables, like the elbow pads, the vinyl tops. Like he'll help package. I'll mark stuff. He'll do the drilling stuff. He's a retired welder fabricator, and he just doesn't want to weld. Like he did enough of it.
Yeah.
So it's more just something to get him out of the house for 2 half days and a little extra money in his pocket. But as far as welding, I do all the welding, which can get pretty
Okay.
crazy at times.
Yeah, I imagine so. And as far as marketing, promotion, stuff like that, um, you know, I I see you're active in the Facebook groups for grip and stuff like that, and um, on the grip board, Arm Assassin gets mentioned all the time. But is there any other kind of way you try to, as a company, get the word out? Um, Anything like that, or are you just too busy welding to do much more than kind of the social media stuff or the website kind
So
of stuff?
I base it on how many orders I have that are kind of outstanding. So like if I have a slower week,
Yeah.
then I might throw a marketing thing here or there. But most of the time, I'm just trying to get the orders out. And and I realize that working on a 5 to 7 day kind of turnaround time, it could potentially lead to an issue where you could have a week where you have almost no work. But I'm like, I have plenty of things I could do outside of work that I could use to do with that
Yeah.
time. I could train 3 or 4 times a week. I could do some stuff for land preparation
Yeah.
for hunting in the fall. Like I'm more just trying to
I was
find
gonna
free
say, I know you
time.
go hunting. Yeah.
Yeah, like my goal every day is to work as fast as I can to get the stuff that done that needs to be done that day, so that I can have free time to do something else. So like I might take a
That makes
15-minute
sense.
break in the day. That's it. I like run around like a madman all day long to make free time. So, which is
Well,
much
it's
different than
also
any field
kind of like I mentioned with.
I've ever done.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, kind of like I mentioned before with some of the guests I've had on that have started their own businesses, a common theme I see in the history of their companies is that it's just really tough to sometimes communicate to customers that this isn't like a corporation, a large corporation. It's like me. Like I'm in my
Yeah.
garage like welding, you know. So do you ever, have that difficulty as well or have that kind of issue as well that someone, doesn't quite
Oh,
understand that this is like they want to talk to your like whatever customer service department and you're like you
yeah.
basically take the phone to the other ear like hi. you
Yeah.
know
Let me switch you over to the other ear. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah
I mean, it
exactly
happens enough that it there's some frustration with it because you get people that are be like, it'll be like 3 or 4 days after they order something. Hey, they email you. I haven't seen a tracking. I'm like, well, here's the shipping policy. All orders are 5 to 7 business days. Arm wrestling tables are four to
yeah
five weeks. So I just send them a screenshot of my shipping policy. Here you go, and just kind of be like, well, it's
yeah
not
there you
my
go
fault you didn't read. So,
which
but it says right
hey
on the homepage of
listeners
the
drop
website,
a
and
comment. I mean,
yeah,
listeners, drop a comment if you truly think that 5 to 7 days is a long time. I mean, that's like nothing. And in the home
literally, that's
gym community,
I don't know of anybody that when I make everything after it's purchased. Like every single thing is, I mean, I may have a random thing here or there that it's left over from something,
yeah,
but 99% of the things, someone orders it, I make it, and it goes out the door in 5 to 7 days.
that's
So it's
amazing.
all
And
custom
it's
made.
really cool to learn
And
that. I was going to ask you, like, are there certain things that because you have a lot of products, like on your website, I didn't count, but I'm guessing, I don't know, is it over 100 products listed on
200
your
ish,
website?
200 plus, yeah, 200, I
200,
think, somewhere in
200.
there. Yeah.
200 plus products listed. I was thinking like, but on the other hand, these are very specific products. Like I'll be placing my order for the Stockton Slapper any minute. So, I really was wondering, oh, does he have like a bunch of like whatever? He welded up a bunch of hubs and they're sitting over here or what? So that's interesting. So you make it to order 5 to 7 days, unless it's a bigger thing like a arm wrestling table, that obviously takes more. Um, that's lightning fast in my opinion, and I'm not just saying that to be a nice guy. Like I'm used to seeing people complain on Discord or complain on you know subreddit or wherever, all these Facebook groups, that like my 3 month lead time, now they're going to take 6 months to deliver. So 5 to 7
And I
days.
mean,
And
I
the other
understand
thing I've
some of
seen
that
you
though.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, I have no overhead other than I pay the rent for my building and like the electric bill. Like if I don't need my uncle, I don't have to pay him anything. So like I don't have to keep three
True.
months of orders ahead of time so that I'm not worried about paying employees. Um, one of the reasons that
Wow, yeah, that's true.
I'm struggling to figure out whether I want an employer, a full time employer or not, is because I don't want to have to try to find work if it got to that point. Whereas I am very flexible with me. If I have a slow week, a busy week, I mean, I just make it work. Like I said, it's been crazy at times,
Sounds like you
very
have
crazy, but
a good situation with your uncle. It's a good situation too, that it's flexible. You could call him up if it's things are stacking up. So that's a good situation. But the thing I like too that I've seen firsthand, like I've gone to order something, I'm like, oh no, Luke's going on vacation soon. You're very transparent. Like you'll put up a thing on your website that, hey, website's shutting down, I'm taking off these days. And I like that a lot. I think it's like there's I, I don't know. I don't want to name names, but I know for a fact there are some companies out there that aren't that transparent, smaller companies, and just kind of, well, I guess products aren't going to go out for a little bit longer. And I think it's better the way you do it. Just put up a notice that, hey, we're not taking any orders. I'm shutting down for a week.
So originally,
That just, you know,
I would put a note saying I was on vacation so that the orders would be delayed. But I would literally go on a vacation or a trip and just listen to my phone, order after order after order, and stress the whole time. How am I going to be able to get all this done
yeah,
when I get back? Well, it would
yeah,
ruin like my ability to have fun on a vacation because that's all I would think about. So I was like, after probably 3 years of not doing that, I'm like, screw it. Like my business isn't going to go under because of 1 week where I shut off the website, and don't take any orders. If people want something, they'll just be back in a week. Like it's not like they have to wait three
yeah,
months to get it anyways. They only have to wait a week.
yeah, absolutely.
So
And I mean,
that was more just me having the confidence as far as what I've done as a business and how I feel my business, the view of it in the community, and having the comfort to be able to just say, "Hey, I'm taking a week off. Like I got stuff to do other than work that needs to be done, so I'm taking a week off."
I mean, it makes sense to me. You need to, just like resting your arm from a tournament. You gotta take a break, especially if you're working these hours and you're pulling all this weight. So, figuratively and literally, I half jokingly mentioned the Stockton Slapper, which I say half
Yeah,
jokingly because I really am buying one. Um, it is, for those that don't know, it's John Oka, who I absolutely love. He is such a cool guy. He invented a bunch of different grip implements, and I'm blessed to have some of them. Um, he came up with this Stockton Slapper that is basically a human hand made that's welded. That then the challenge is that you got to grab it and pick it up. But the challenge to the person who makes it is it's like ridiculously time consuming to make. Um, other than the Stockton
yeah.
Slapper,
It's a
and
lot of little
let's say
pieces that
other than
you
Stockton
got to.
Slapper, yeah. What else takes a while? I mean, wrestling table or arm wrestling tables would take a while. Stockton Slapper. What else takes a while?
Any of the bigger stuff, but even a lot of the bigger stuff, it's just a matter of like I don't. Well, this is the other thing that blows people's minds is there's nothing written down at all for dimensions or sizes of anything that I produce. I mean, I know the sizes of everything, so so that's what makes it. Someone literally couldn't. If I died tomorrow, my business no longer exists because of that. But um, the but I used to think of that like certain things. I would just be like some of these grip machines. I'd be like, oh, I just don't. I hate making them. Like whatever. But now I'm just like, just freaking cut the metal, prep it, and weld it.
Yeah.
It takes just get it done. Like I think my mentality is more of the change than anything else. I mean, there's other and some of that stuff takes time. Like I said, there's a lot of the stuff. Once I make 3 or 4 of them, the time just decreases significantly because it's like how to clamp stuff
Yeah.
down, how to get stuff as far as position to make it faster. Plus, you're using all the knowledge from all the other stuff you've made, like to kind of figure things out as far as that. Um, there's a new bar that I actually took to Winter Blast with me that I haven't kind of put out yet, but that trying to get everything lined up and trying to get the spacing right on that was a pain initially, but I think after I make a couple, it'll go faster.
When are you gonna release this new bar? Do you have a time in mind?
The problem is that every time I try to release something is like, how do I? Because what if I get 20 orders in 1 week and then I got to try to get all 20 of them done in 5 to 7 days? So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
that's the
mean,
hard part. Is like, there's some
it's
things
the
I may
elements.
just limit it to like, yeah, I may limit it to like 5. Put like an inventory on it and just limit it to 5 per week so that I don't get this huge inundation of orders. Because I still get
There
like
you go.
arm wrestling table orders from 2 other companies that I still have to make stuff for. So I can't just like move away from that stuff just to do
Yeah.
those. But
Well, you're
so I
coming to
mean, I
Home
got a
Gym
few.
Con again.
Yeah, I'll probably have a few of
You
them
could
at
release it
that.
there. Yeah.
I don't
I
know if I
mean,
want to wait
there's
that
a lot
long.
of
Really.
I was going to say, I don't know if you want to wait that long, but there are companies that release things at Home Gym Con. That's kind of become a thing. This is the third Home Gym Con, and I noticed the first Home Gym Con a couple years ago, there was only a handful, like maybe 1 or 2 companies that had something new there. And really, it was kind of accidental that it was at Home Gym Con at the same time. It wasn't really for Home Gym Con. Last year, there was a real concerted effort. Like there was a like we are releasing this at Home Gym Con. So hey, if time goes by and you're like, man, it's May, you might as well wait a couple weeks and release it at Home Gym Con.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem is that taking it to that arm wrestling tournament, I already have like multiple people that are asking me to, hey, when are you going to start putting that on the website and start selling it?
Yeah,
So I'm
there
like,
you
it's
go.
probably going to be next week or the week after is when I'll actually probably
Okay,
release it.
fair enough.
I
Fair
just
enough.
sent you a video, which it's actually it's a bar I made like 3 years ago. With it was like
Okay.
someone was like had like an idea, and we kind of worked together to make this, and I don't remember who I made it for. Um, and then I kind of remade it, fiddling with the measurements differently to try to figure out what exactly how I could improve it to kind of facilitate the pressures I wanted. Um, and
Mm.
then I think I got the measurements down for what I want. But I'm actually sending you a video
Well,
of me using it from the
thank
other
you.
day.
I'll check it out. And listeners, I promise you, once it comes out, this podcast is going to drop next week, so it might not be out yet. This mysterious new bar from Armor Assassin Strength Shop. But what I'll do is I'll drop it in the comments and I'll pin the comment. I'll get Jake to pin the comment to the top once it does release. So if you're watching this, you know, sometime after April of 2025, you can just look in the comments and see what this mysterious bar is.
And
As far
maybe we
as
could even
go ahead.
maybe I could wait till this is released, and then we could do a naming contest on the comments and
There
see
you
if
go. I like
uh,
it.
maybe we could do a giveaway of like a little goodie pack for the person that ends up with the name of what it is. Let's do that. How's
That's
that
pretty
sound?
awesome.
I mean,
So
obviously,
that sounds
I'll have to
great.
release
So
a
drop
video
a
of it.
comment. Yeah. 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 To see what this thing is. Yeah. Yeah. So, hey, you know, drop a comment once you see this bar. What should we name it? And, you know, if Luke picks the name from you, he'll be in contact with you. That's a pretty good opportunity. I like it.
That works.
Now, as far
Nothing
as working with
that works for me.
people, I mentioned John Oka and how you worked with him, which best Instagram name, Okabug, Jokabug, lazy old fucker. It's the
Yeah,
greatest Instagram name that's ever existed. But and listeners, if you don't follow Jokabug, lazy old fucker, go check him out. He is just he's a delight. Like he just every time he posts something, it's the best. So he has made a ton of stuff, but then there's a handful of things from him that you produce, you know. And I asked him one time, like, how'd that work out? And he said, well, I can't make this. He ebbs and flows. He'll make a bunch of stuff for a couple days and then he doesn't make anything forever. So he was like, yeah, you know, I just sent Luke the stuff or let him make it. How else? I know you worked with Jed on Napalm Nightmare. So any other people that you've kind of you mentioned someone giving you an idea, like you know any other kind of collaborative efforts?
Joe Hodgson's from Australia. I have that Hodgson wrist trainer where you slide like a sledgehammer in it, and then you can do it for like wrist training. He wanted to be able to
Mm-hmm.
kind of produce it and uh, be able to have it for people in the U.S. versus him trying to build it and then ship it over here. I mean, Jed, that was a huge one just because of the whole napalm system that came out of it. So the original Napalm Nightmare was just 2 3/8 handle. It was a 60 millimeter, basically a two-handed Rolling Thunder was the idea. And then it was made out of PVC. Ryan Pitts from Stronger Grip actually used to make that version, the original version, until Jed and I kind of worked together to get the version that's now. Um, and then I just started adding different handles to it. So like all the different cylinders, your 2x5, 3x4 pinch blocks, your ingot. Then you have the three different 2 3/8, 3 4 inch globe grips. I've made some other ones that are like key pinch sizes that I don't even have on the website. I think there's 12 or 13 different handles that'll all fit, and then you got 15 different implements that all those handles will now interchange between like pull up stations, farmers carries, one-handed versions, two-handed versions. There's just tons of options, but
Yeah, that whole system. you can just keep going and going. It's pretty cool. I have the single and the double, the original Napalm Nightmare, and then I have several of the different handles that I'll swap out, and I'll put the blocks on, or I'll put on a 2 inch or a 2 3/8 inch handle or whatever. I've thought about the pull up station, and then I think if I remember correctly, one time I was looking at the tricep bar. I was thinking, oh, that'd be pretty cool. Swap out different handles. There was some type of bar you had you could put the handles on. So yeah, I mean, you can keep rolling with that. The farmer's handles are cool, especially to be able to put a thicker handle on, a thinner handle, whatever you feel like you're training.
Yeah, then the mini farmers, just like the ones that you lift off that um, a lot of people make, like a mini farmer's handle, Titan, Black Widow, like they all have just, but I believe mine's the only one that has the interchangeable handles so that you can work your grip strength while doing a mini farmer's carry too. So um, there's, I don't,
Yeah, very
it's
cool.
like endless. There's a bunch of stuff like different landmine, like bent over row type T handles with like multiple positions for handles that I've made for people in the pet. It's just like it's some things I just like. Well, I'm only gonna do one because I don't feel like making a whole bunch more of these right now, and then I forget about them.
Yeah.
And I don't. Even, I was telling someone I was like, "There's stuff I made like that bar. I forgot I even made it." Um, and there's just stuff. There's stuff I haven't even taken pictures of. I made one thing. I never took a picture of it, and then I don't. Someone would have to send me a picture of it to even remember that I made it at this point. But so it's some of the fun things like that that obviously um, challenges the brain, challenges your fabrication skills. So.
I mean, I think in a home gym space, having a piece of equipment that's so versatile is a really appealing thing. Like as soon as I see something that I'm like, oh man, this can do like 20 different things, that's really appealing. So, um, if you've gotten a little lost, listeners, basically, I mean, we'll drop a bunch of pictures in here, but the Napalm Nightmare hooks up to a loading pin, and then it comes standard with the grip of your choice. So you can get a 2 inch round handle, 2 3/8 inch, whatever you want. Then there's a single one too, like this one, that's in the Home Gym Con grip strength competition. And essentially, like Luke was just saying, you can purchase additional handles that are all different dimensions and thicknesses and shapes. And then you can also use those handles on all these other things within this whole like universe, basically, the napalm universe. So it's really, you know, I'm sure it keeps customers coming back. That's for sure. And then on the customer end, it's awesome to have something so versatile. Um, when it comes to your products and going to Home Gym Con. Last year was your first year, and I was impressed. I did a booth tour that's on my YouTube channel, Vintage Weights PGH. I'll drop a link in the comments for that or in the description for that. And walking around your booth, you had a ton of stuff that was hanging up and everything. Was that something you already had from maybe going to tournaments or going to other places, or did you put that together for Home Gym Con?
I just kind of made a whole bunch of random stuff for Home Gym Con. Just because I was like, well, I want to, and there was a bunch of things that I just didn't even have time to make because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what kind of crowd I was going to be seeing. I think I would do less arm wrestling stuff because I just don't picture it being a huge arm wrestling crowd. So I would have some of the basics for arm wrestling, but not a lot. Um, but as far as the other stuff, the other general fitness grip stuff, I think I'll have a little bit more of that this year. And with the Saxon bar, I'm gonna have to bring a whole bunch of
Cool.
Saxon bars because I know Eric and Jared
Yeah.
both want Saxon bars and all this, and plus the
There
two
you
for the
go.
contest. I'm like, I'm gonna have there's just gonna be a
Yeah.
stacked row of Saxon bars on the side of the trailer.
And the Saxon bar
But, I mean,
listeners, the history of that is Arthur Saxon. So Arthur Saxon, famous strongman, famously would pick up timber. Actually, it wasn't a bar, it was timber that he would grab this huge piece of timber and up over his head. Well, fast forward, um, Sorinex, I believe, developed a bar first, and named it after him because essentially you're gripping this rectangular bar, and there's a 3 inch by 4 inch Saxon is going to be the one used in Home Gym Con grip strength championships, but there's also you produce a 2 inch by
two
five
by
inch one.
five,
I
yeah,
think I don't have that one. Yeah, I don't have a two by
yeah,
five. I need to pick that one
and
up,
then
but I
there's
have
other
a three
companies
by
like
four.
overseas that'll make like a because it's metric, it'll be like a 60 millimeter by 100 millimeter. So it ends up being slightly different than 2 and 3/8. So, I mean, there's various sizes throughout the kind of the the world, but the two primary ones are 2x5 and 3x4.
And I mean, it's humbling. If you deadlift 400 pounds on a regular barbell, you're going to struggle picking up something that's shaped like a rectangle. You're not going to be picking up 400 pounds
Yeah,
right away the first time you try
no.
it. Um, it's, so
I
it's
mean,
a humbling
even to
experience picking up the Saxon bar.
even to lift 200 pounds if you've never touched it is a fantastic
Yeah,
lift. So
I'm. I mean, I've been training at it, and I don't know if I'm going to get to 200 pounds. So, I, yeah, I'd be happy with 200 pounds.
I
But
personally
yeah,
prefer the
it's
two.
a cool one.
I feel like the 2 inch becomes less of a hand size issue, where the 3 inch can start to become just a little bit wide for some of the smaller handed
That's fair.
people.
Yeah,
And plus, I lift like 40 to 50 more pounds on the 2x5, so that's why I
yeah.
like it better too.
Well, maybe next year, maybe the 2x5 will be used next year. You know, that's
Which
I plan to
we have two by
keep the
five.
standard lifts.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the standard basic. You know, trying to get a pinch, trying to get a thick bar in there. I really liked the medley last year, so I'm gonna keep with the medley in future years. But maybe that's what we do next year: is 2x5 instead of 3x4 Saxon. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I know there's some hesitancy on some people's part as far as lockout calls. Um, I just think you have to be afraid. You can't be afraid to just call someone and say it wasn't good enough. Like at the end of the day, we're not competing for millions of dollars, so no one's dinner.
Yeah,
They're being able to put food on the table is at risk. But I feel like the biggest thing with the grip and having subjective lockouts and all those calls is you just can't be afraid to say sorry, not good. Like it was slipping at the top coming out of your hand, so you didn't display control. Um, and I mean,
it's funny
I
you
think that's
mentioned
why
that.
some of the arm lifting has gotten kind of a bad rap, is because there's been a few questionable calls here and there. I was at the Arnold. There was maybe two out of all the. I mean, there was tons of competitors, so having only two questionables in the whole weekend, which the person, one of them, he actually lifted two more weights higher than that, so it ended up not even mattering. So
There you go.
so that was even more crazy. So, uh, but at the end of the day, it's just like I'm here to judge as best as I can, and I would rather err on something not being good enough and not giving them a good call than being like giving them a handout. That's just my viewpoint.
Well, I think it would be interesting if I could get enough enough people to help me with the competition. It would be
And that's the other thing.
ideal. What would you think if I had someone watching from the front and someone from the side to watch lockout, and someone from the front, you know, to see from that perspective, two judges.
So the one year I actually was a judge at the Arnold, and we had three judges. We had one on each side, so we were each responsible. I was a side judge. I was responsible for the hand on my side. So like the front judge was giving down calls,
Gotcha.
and he was primarily working on making sure the down call, and then the other two sides were making sure that on two-handed lifts, whether each hand maintained good control at the top. Um,
I like that.
I think one extra ref would be fine. Because they can just focus on their hands and what's happening at their hands.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the down ref is trying to time everything and worry about all that stuff, and it is hard just having a single person being a judge um, versus having a second set of eyes that can kind of not worry about the down call and just focus on control.
Yeah. I mean, I think the medley was the medley was the hardest thing for me to judge last year because there were so many different things, and someone's trying to beat the clock that you only have a minute to complete 10 challenges. So the medley's fun. It's out of the four, it's, I think, the only event that got a bunch of spectators, random people stopping like, what the heck is this? Because guys are running around and gals are picking up stuff, and all the competitors are going as fast as they can in 1 minute to pick up 10 things. But judging that, I mean, I've given people like a no go on a challenge and them kind of getting stuck there and trying to, they're going crazy because it's, should they move on, should they not? It was that was hectic. So it'd be nice to have two judges for that, and maybe even just split up the challenges. Like, I judge half over here, someone else judges the half over there. So I don't know. I'm still planning it. If you can't tell, I haven't worked through all the
I mean,
details.
how many have you watched any other like medleys? Because like the one that we did at North Americans at up at Eric Rusin did up in Canada last year.
Yeah,
Like we basically only had to lift it like 10 to 12 inches and then just show control at that height. We didn't have to like do a full lockout. So you basically it's just a
yeah.
partial lift with control, um,
The
so that
tricky
you're not trying
thing,
to.
well, the tricky implement last year was the from Stronger Grip. Actually, the blob trainer
Yeah.
competitors kept getting under it. They kept trying to scoop under it instead of pinch the
Well, yeah,
top, and
that's the new. That's people not knowing. That's the new people not understanding like the way a blob
yeah.
is intended.
And I showed. I mean, I just demonstrated it, and I said, "Do not go underneath. Like you've got to be up here." And sure enough, they're picking it up once and dropping it. So then I don't think it was intentional, and I think it was just like a in the moment instinctual thing that like I picked it up and dropped it, so I'm just going to move my hand down some. So then I'd have to say like, no, it wasn't a good lift. But yeah, I agree. And
Yeah.
I did. I watched on YouTube some of those medleys beforehand to kind of get a feel for like, all right, this is what's
But
expected. Grip Genie
the
sponsored the medley, and there's a bunch of
are
different wacky stuff. So it should be interesting.
the biggest difference. Like North Americans, obviously everybody that qualified for that understands what a grip contest consists of. So it is
Yeah,
different than a whole bunch of people that have never done it versus the
yeah.
best in North America that are competing. Like they obviously know how to grab and how to position their hands on things. So
Well,
that
right
that is
now
a challenge
of
that you had.
well, I think it's a cool thing, an opportunity for people to get into it and learn a little bit, and just bring more people to the sport. Um, but this year, with the entry fee, um, and just with Home Gym Con growing a little bit and people wanting to come out, I recognize a lot more names than I recognized last year. I'd phrase it that way. Out of the 16 people, I'm confident that 14 of them have competed before, and I just maybe the
Well,
other
that's
two
good.
haven't. I just don't recognize their names.
Yeah.
So I think um, there'll be some new people. Hopefully, I would like that, but I don't know, since it's not completely free. I don't know if there'll be as many that just kind of come over. So we'll see.
I mean, and
But
you may want to
you
limit
know,
that. That may keep it to a reasonable number because if it's free, you might have 150 people that want to compete, and then how are you going to
yeah,
run
exactly.
150 people through all those events? Like, so the fact that it's a
I
little
got a
bit of an
little scared.
investment, um,
Yeah.
it may keep a bunch of people away, but I still think that it's cheap enough that there's going to be a fair amount of people that are like, oh, it's only $15. I get to try out and do this thing that I've never done before. So
Well, your booth is right next to it. So if anyone happens upon the grip competition, or they, think to themselves, oh, I'm not sure if I want to compete this year, you can stop by the Arm Assassin Strength Shop booth and try out a whole bunch of stuff. And last year, I saw people coming through your booth and trying stuff. Did anyone that you didn't know already, anyone who wasn't like a grip athlete that you didn't know, come in and kind of impress you? Like, whoa, look at this person.
there was one strongman competitor that lifted the inch dumbbell that I had no idea. I'd never met him before.
There you go.
But there was a whole lot of people that were just baffled that a 50-pound blob, a next gen blob, and an inch dumbbell just wouldn't come off the ground. And then I would go over and like
Yeah,
the blob especially, I would just walk up to it and lift it like it was nothing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I intend on having
Oh,
all those things again. So
very cool. I mean, the Thomas Inch dumbbell. I mean, Thomas Inch was a strong man who not just lifted a 172-pound dumbbell, but the famous thing about it that made it like such a spectacle was that the handle is so thick that it's two. Am I saying? Wait, is it 2 3/8? Yeah. So
yeah,
inches thick. Um, Basically the size of a Coke can is a often
yeah,
reference.
literally it's
And
basically the
Thomas Inch
exact
actually
size of
had
a
a
stone.
series of dumbbells. So he had a series of dumbbells, and the heaviest one was 172 pounds. And I have a Thomas Inch replica that I have not yet lifted. It's a goal of mine. I just started being able to get a 64 kilogram. It's about 140 pounds. But when I say get, I mean like not in a competition. It would get disqualified. I mean like I'm just sort of tilting and getting a little air there. Um, so, it's a goal of mine. I'm working towards it. But if you've never tried to lift a Thomas Inch dumbbell, there's your chance. There's going to be one sitting there at the Arm Assassin Strength Shop booth at Home Gym Con. Give it a shot. Come over and see if all these weird grip grip strength people are really telling the truth. See if you can lift it up.
So
But
I
as
actually
far as
went
that's
almost 5
concerned,
years.
how long did it
5
take you?
years between let's say my first lift was actually at Paul Knight's
Oh, there you
house.
go.
It was I forget what year it was, but it was like one of those really really humid days where a storm had just passed. So like all the metal, like anything that was metal in his gym was like wet. So I went over and chalked the crap out of it. So it literally felt like it was glue on my hands, and I was able to lift the inch dumbbell the first time that day, first time ever. And then I went 5 years until my next full lift. So if
Oh,
that tells you,
man.
and that's me training consistently. I mean, I would get a whole bunch of like knee lift heights, like very close to full lockout. But to get another full lockout lift, it took me almost 5 years, which is crazy that the texture that
Wow.
one random day made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. There's a friend of mine recently was talking about how like, yeah, I'm gonna get one. I think it'll take me about a year, and I was thinking maybe, but probably longer. Like maybe there are people that are just they for whatever reason they have it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I
But as
could
far
say
as
yes or
strength,
no based
go ahead.
if you could get like a baseline on their like rolling handle, like if they could do 200 pounds on
Yeah.
the 2 3/8 one hand nightmare, then yeah, they probably could get it in a year. That would be realistic, or one like if they're within. Because I feel like that
Yeah.
around 200, you should be able to be in the ballpark of an inch dumbbell on that handle
That's
for a
fair.
one handed lift.
So
I
that
mean, a
gives
little
you really
less, a
good.
little
If
more.
anyone out there has a one-handed napalm nightmare, there you go. And you're wondering about the Thomas Inch dumbbell. And I would assume like a Rolling Thunder or a 2 inch, um, rolling handle. We're talking higher than 220, 240 pounds or something higher. I would
A,
guess.
a brand new Rolling Thunder that still rolls perfectly fine out of the package. It's around 200. It's very similar, but the problem is everybody knows with the Rolling
Yeah.
Thunder after a short time using it, it gets easier. So then your numbers are going up, but you're not actually getting stronger. The handle's just rolling less. So,
Yeah. You got.
but yeah, I would say if you had a
You have to
brand new
grade
Rolling
it
Thunder out
based
of
on
the package,
out of the package.
200 pounds.
Still a
Yeah,
thing. Okay.
200 pounds is still a good number.
Good to know. Good to know. So then, you know, before I let you go here, why don't we wrap up with this, your home gym history or just your gym history, because that's the name of the podcast. So, you know, you're a kid. At what point do you start, pursuing strength? Is it when you were a kid, when you're in college? Like at what point do you, start getting after it in the gym?
So I tore my ACL in 2007 playing flag football. So I had graduated undergrad at this point, so I was 22. Tore my ACL, and that was where my strength journey started. Was rehabbing for that, and then kind of transitioning to kind of full body type of stuff, doing like a more of like a powerlifting split, and then it's been kind of on and off. There's been years where like I used to play men's softball. We used to travel all over the country in the summertime, so like I would take the whole summer off of training, even grip training. Um, and then I would resume back in kind of after hunting season was over, and I would train for like 6 months. Um, now I train all year round, but still doing a modified powerlifting split kind of when I'm able. but I
Yeah.
do a little bit more like single limb based stuff to try to maintain mobility a little bit better. But uh, the single limb stuff has actually been helping me progress better on my compound movements. So I can't really. I'm literally as strong as I've ever been at 40 right now. Like my deadlift's higher than it's ever been. My bench is higher than it's ever been. I don't really do
Wow.
much back squatting. I do like more of a goblet stuff. I mean, I'll do some safety squat bar very randomly, but um, yeah. So I mean, I can't. Whatever I'm doing currently seems to be working, even though it might only be 2 to 3 times a week at most.
Hey, if it's working, it's working. Take it.
I mean, I'm also like I said, very active, very all day long, like moving steel, running around, doing that. So it's not like I'm doing nothing every day. But
And where are you lifting at? Do you have a place at the house? Do you go to a gym? Where are you headed?
so Jed's is primarily he lives about 15 miles away. Um, so I'll
Okay.
travel to his maybe twice a week, and then there's an Anytime Fitness that's right a mile down the road. And then in my shop, the front room, I have some. Uh, I have some base. I have mainly just grip items until Wednesday. I just picked up a rack off of Marketplace, just a cheap $250 rack, just to kind of
Nice.
throw in there to be able to like attach. Some of it's just to do demo videos for like rack attachments. Um,
Yeah.
Other of it's just to have if I ever want to do a full body lift using a rack. But it was something I didn't want to spend a lot of money because I knew I wouldn't really use it a whole lot realistically.
I think the true story is you were coming on home gym history and felt the pressure to have a home gym.
Yeah,
That's how it went down.
yeah.
You're
I
like,
mean, I see all these
I
people
gotta
with
get a
like
rack.
their their rogue bills from their racks that they have, and I'm like,
Yeah.
holy, but it's outrageous. Like the amount of money that people are willing to spend on some of that stuff, and I'm over here on Marketplace trying to find a reasonable quality, cheapest rack I can find,
Yeah.
just because that's
Well,
that's all I
I
need
mean,
for what I'm using it for.
I
And I
think
didn't want to make one.
I
That was the
I
other
was
thing.
just gonna say, if I had to take a guess, you could you could make a rack. I mean, I just thinking through your product line, I'm like, oh, like basically do that. Like you could make a rack. If I had to guess, it's
Oh
more the
yeah,
time involved because of your work schedule. Like you said, you can't take a whole day and just make a rack for yourself. You got whatever number of orders to fulfill. So yeah, you know, maybe one of these vacations coming up, you take a day and make something custom for yourself. You get some ideas by messing around with this used one.
yeah. I mean, it was a commercial one, so it's actually it's a little heavier gauge wall than a lot of the cheaper ones I'm seeing.
Yeah,
I was actually pretty pleased with it, so I can't really argue. I was surprised they were giving it
nice,
away for
nice.
250. I figured it'd be more like 400 to 500, but
Yeah,
I'll
I
take it.
mean, while I was waiting for you to log on, I was searching on Facebook Marketplace. Like I'm constantly scouring for weights and other stuff. So you're speaking my language, man. I'm picking up a bench tomorrow, a commercial bench, for free. Actually, the guy had it listed for
Nice.
$100, and the pads all the vinyl's ripped off. Not whatever it is on the pad. It's all ripped up. It came from a commercial gym, but it's a nice frame on it. And I figured, I offered him $75 because I figured I can put a new cover on it. And and then he just sent me a message that, you know what, man, you can just have it. Like it's sitting out. Come pick it up. So I'm gonna grab it for free tomorrow.
Nice.
So you
Can't
never
beat
know,
that.
man. There's that stuff out there on Marketplace that people just want to get rid of. You know,
Yeah.
they want it out of the
Like
house.
last year at home gym con, I bought my first set of plates, and the only reason I bought calibrated plates is to pinch them. I didn't care about anything else. So
That's awesome. I Where were they from? Where'd you buy them from?
bells of steel because
Were they
I
Titan?
wanted bells of steel
Bells of
because they're
Steel?
different
Okay.
plates. Yeah. So my
Okay.
goal is
So
to be able to pinch as many different
that's
brands of 25 kilo plates that I can. So I've done Alicos, Rogue,
awesome.
Bells of Steel, um, and then Paul Knight has chrome Ivankos at his freaking in his home gym at his house.
There you go.
But he doesn't have 25 kilos there. He only has 20 kilos.
The chrome's going to be slippery. That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, you can chalk it. I promise you. I've done it. You can chalk it.
That's the right attitude. Yeah. There you go.
Enough time and effort, you can get that chalk.
Well, you got to get like a really Facebook Marketplace pair of chrome Ivankos that are like real scratched up, can hold the chalk. I mean, I think it's fair to say you're probably the only person to ever buy competition plates from Bells of Steel just to be able to pinch them together and see if you can lift them up. So listeners, try this out at home. Try it in your home gym. Grab your pair of 45s, whatever you have. I don't care what brand they are. It doesn't matter if they're competition plates. Just grab your 45s and squeeze them with one hand and see if you can lift them up, and drop a comment if you can. Now, if you're a grip strength competitor, then good for you. You don't have to rub it in and drop a comment. I'm talking about like people who have never tried any grip feats of strength. You're going to be amazed. Like I can't do that one yet, even just with normal 45s. I'm working on it. I'm still at 35s right now, but I've been, adding some weight and stuff. But I'll get there. It's like any other feat of strength. It's fun. It's the journey. But as far as Home Gym Con this year, listeners, if you want to come out, code Vintage will save you 10% on tickets. And if you heard about anything interesting from Arm Assassin, code Vintage, same code, will save you 10% over at Arm Assassin. If you head over there, armassassinstrengthshop.com. I'll drop the link directly in the description. As we get closer to Home Gym Con, I'm going to be hitting up Luke. Thank you for all your help last year, man. You were really a big help for the competition.
Absolutely. And like I said, I was because I donated prizes last year. I was one of the first people to be able to pick my booth space, and I saw where the grip contest was going to be, and I'm like, put me right there, right next to it again, because that's where I feel I'm at home in the grip community and the grip contest. So if I can help, maybe compete, that's where I want to be. So
well, it's great to have you there, and I'm sure as people compete and as people just are coming around the expo, look for the octopus. Look for Arm Assassin and check them out.
Right
Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Luke.
It's a painting right there.
Oh, there you go.
It's a painting of my logo.
So
my wife got
sign off. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that was a gift from my wife. So.
That's an awesome gift. I like it. You should run off a print for it. I bet you a couple people would buy it.
It's probably.
That's very cool.
I do have one person with a tattoo of my logo on the back of his hand. My buddy that lives right next to me. He got my logo on the back of his hand. So there is one person with a tattoo out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. My son wears your hat all the time because my oldest son came with me to Home Gym Con last year. He's probably coming again this year. He might have to fight my daughter. My oldest daughter wants to come, but he took home a Arm Assassin Strength Shop hat, and he wears it all the time. So he sports it.
You might have. Yeah. I'm sure we could find one for your daughter too.
Yeah. So we'll see. I haven't decided which one's coming with me, and I can only bring one. So we'll see. Whichever one can be the most help, because that's why I brought him. I needed someone to operate the camera and help me do interviews and things. So he did a good job. He was my cameraman. We'll bring him out again, or maybe my daughter. She'll help out and be the camera woman. But I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. And yeah, please, if you're coming to Home Gym Con, listeners, stop by Arm Assassin. And if you're not coming to Home Gym Con, you can still head to their website and see what they have to offer. So thanks so much for coming on, Luke. Appreciate it.